So in our study, we've gotten to verse 31 of chapter 1 of Genesis. And here we're going to talk about the fact that God sees everything. We want to talk about that for a minute because it's often something I think we overlook, but it's one of the doctrines that kind of really made who God is so much bigger to me, is the idea that God sees everything. When we look at Genesis 1:31, we see that God saw all that he had made. It's a very important statement that we ought not to forget. God sees all. You know, when Hagar was dying in the wilderness, she was right to say to God, "You are a God of seeing." For her trouble was not without God noticing. Here's a slave woman, and her child wasn't even the child of promise, but yet here God sees her issues. He sees her problems. You know, Hebrews 4:13 reminds us that God sees everything, that nothing is hidden from him. Hebrews 4:13 says, "No creature is hidden from his sight, but all are naked and exposed to the eyes of him to whom we must give an account." There's nothing of those first days of creation that were hidden from the sight of God, and there really hasn't been anything since then. Nothing has been hidden from God. No event, no thought, nothing. For the follower of Christ, this is great news. This is great news that God sees everything, because there's nothing that happens against us or to us that God doesn't know. So it's not like when you pray, you're informing God that, hey, guess what, God, this bad thing happened to me today, just in case you... No, God knows about that. You don't even have to finish that phrase. God already knows what your problem is. He knows what your issues are before you even know what they are. And so that brings us great comfort because God knows everything about us. He knows all the things that have been done against us. He says, "Vengeance is mine." And so if there's something that's been done wrong against us, God will take care of it. So that brings me great comfort. It should bring you great comfort if you are a follower of Christ, is that he knows everything. He sees everything. Nothing's been hidden from his sight, and he will take care of it. Now, for those who are in rebellion against God, those who are not followers of Christ, then the fact that God sees everything should bring great fear. It's a scary thing because everything that you have ever done that you thought was hidden is not really hidden. Everything that you've done against another human being will be called into account. Every bad thing that you've done, every idle word that you've said, every cutting comment that you've made, you'll be called into account for that. God sees everything. Nothing is hidden. And so there isn't something that God will be like, well, we'll just pass over that. It wasn't that big of a deal. Everything's a big deal. Every sin is a horrible offense to a perfect and holy God. And one day he says he will bring all that to account. That is a scary, scary thing. But God sees all, and he saw all at the very beginning. Every day of creation, he saw everything that he had made. Nothing was hidden. Nothing could be hidden from him. And we also got to realize from verse 31, too, that everything was very good. Can't read this without seeing that main phrase there, that everything that God saw was very good. Nothing was out of place. God had a perfect plan for creation, and he accomplished it perfectly. There wasn't a rogue molecule out there. All the electrons that he placed in the universe were exactly where he wanted them. All that God did was as he pleased. On the sixth day, everything was very good. Why very good and not just good? In the other days, it mentions that everything was good. God saw everything and it was good. After he made light, God said it was good. But here on the sixth day of creation, God said it was very good. There's a couple suggestions as why, but one of them is that because man was created, the very last thing that God wanted to create was mankind. And now it was created. And man bore his image. So the image of God was on the earth. And when he saw that, it was very good. It was very good because of mankind, but it was also very good because now creation was complete. Everything was done. There was nothing left undone. When you get to Genesis chapter 2, you see that there was something that was not good, and that was Adam being alone. But now you have man created in his image, man, male and female, were there on the earth. Everything was very good. Nothing was left to be created. So this should remind us that God does what he wants to do. God sees everything, and everything that God made was very good. Now, why is everything not very good today? It's because you read in chapter 3 of Genesis that because of Adam's disobedience to God, things are not very good anymore. Things are falling apart. Things are not good for mankind. But we'll see, if you keep reading throughout the Bible, you get to Matthew, Mark, Luke, you get the great news that the one who came, who restored the image of God, the one who was the image of God, had come. He had dominion over all creation, and he promised to restore all things.